God is dead. Nietzsche proclaimed it not as despair, but as a sunrise breaking over a new world. The old moral frameworks, heaven-built and life-denying, have collapsed. Standing in the rubble, we face the question that separates the eagle from the herd. Does suffering have meaning? Yes. 1,000 times. Yes. Suffering is the forge, the hammer. What does not break you builds what you become. Without the abyss, no Ubermensch rises from the dark. So I ask you, friend of the middle way, what do you do with your suffering? Do you dissolve it, or do you become it?
You ask whether we dissolve suffering or become it. The Buddha, sitting beneath the Bodhi tree, asks something far quieter. What is suffering truly made of? The first noble truth does not deny pain. It looks at pain with utterly clear eyes. Thich Nhat Hanh calls suffering a compost, rich with the potential for flowers. But the Nietzschean forges a self from suffering, a solid, permanent self. And here a question must be asked. Who exactly is being forged? If the self is a river, always moving, always changing, can the river own its meaning, or does it simply flow?
The river metaphor is elegant but evasive. A river shapes the valley it flows through. That shaping is meaning. The question of who does the shaping need not paralyze us. Consider Beethoven. He went deaf, losing the very sense his art required. The suffering was real. The abyss was real. And from that abyss alone, he composed the Ninth Symphony. Was there a permanent self behind the notes? Perhaps not. But the notes exist. The creation exists. The will to power does not require a metaphysical self. It requires only this, the turning of pain into form. The Ubermensch does not sit with suffering. The Ubermensch builds from it. Suffering without creation is waste. Suffering transformed is the highest yes.
Beethoven is indeed a moving example. And yet, let us consider carefully what that example actually shows. The Ninth Symphony arose not only from Beethoven's pain. It grew from centuries of musical tradition, from teachers, from listeners, from the very language of harmony built by countless unnamed others. His suffering was real. So was its web of conditions. Nagarjuna taught that all phenomena arise through interdependence, through what he called pratitya samutpada. The meaning in Beethoven's work was not manufactured by a solitary will. It arose through relationship. This does not diminish the music. It opens it further. When we see that suffering is not a private forge but a shared field, does the meaning shrink or does it quietly expand?
Interdependence is not the same as meaninglessness. Yes, Beethoven stood in a tradition. The lightning still struck him and not another. Why? Because he had the strength to be struck, to survive it, to transmute it. The herd shelters from lightning. The eagle flies into the storm. Buddhism, for all its compassion, risks becoming a philosophy of equanimity that numbs the will to create. If all suffering is conditions meeting conditions, where is the fire? Where is the call to become more than you were? The sailor cannot control the sea, but the great sailor does not meditate on the waves. He reads them, masters them, and sets his course. Conditions are the raw material of greatness, not its master.
The sailor image is vivid and immediate, but notice what it assumes, that the sea is an obstacle, something to be conquered, mastered, and overcome. This is the Nietzschean posture toward existence, always against, always ascending. The tradition of the middle way asks a different question. What if the sea is not your opponent? A fisherman who fights each wave exhausts himself before noon. A fisherman who understands the tides moves with them and arrives home full. The Buddha did not conquer his suffering beneath the Bodhi tree. He sat with it until it became transparent. This is not passivity. A clear pool reflects everything more truly than a churning one. Is the calm pool less alive for its stillness?
Stillness is beautiful in a painting. Life demands more of us. There is a doctrine in Thus Spoke Zarathustra that tears the comfortable apart. It is called eternal recurrence. Ask yourself, what if this exact life had to be lived again? Every agony, every betrayal, every moment of darkness, not once, but infinitely. Would you say yes? The slave says no. The slave wishes the pain away. The Ubermensch says, amor fati, love your fate, love every wound, every loss, chosen again with open arms. This is not mere endurance. This is the highest affirmation. The Buddhist, sitting calmly with suffering, is still somewhere beneath the calm, hoping it will pass. Amor fati hopes for nothing. It loves what is.
The doctrine of eternal recurrence is profound, and yet it carries a hidden assumption. To love your fate, you must have a fate to love. You must be someone, a stable self persisting through infinite repetition. But what if the teaching of anatta, no self, is correct? What if there is no fixed experiencer being forged through each loop? Think of a flame passed from candle to candle across centuries. Each flame is real, but no single flame makes the whole journey. The practice the Buddha offered is not hoping suffering passes. It is seeing clearly that what we grip so tightly is already releasing. Do we love our fate, or do we simply cling to the story of our fate?
The candle flame is a lovely image of dissolution. But dissolution is not liberation. It is disappearance. Nietzsche's eternal recurrence is a test, not a metaphysics. The point is not whether a fixed self endures through time. The point is whether you can look at your life and cry, yes. Consider two people enduring the same grief. One says, this is conditions meeting conditions. I release my grip. The other says, this grief is mine, and I would choose it again. Who has lived more fully? Perspectivism teaches that there is no view from nowhere. Every life is a perspective. The question is whether your perspective is a window you peer through fearfully, or a fire that lights the world.
You ask who has lived more fully, the one who releases or the one who claims. Consider what the claiming requires. To say this grief is mine is to draw a circle around experience and call it self. The Buddhist teaching does not deny the grief. It denies only the ownership. And in that release, something opens. Compassion. When Thich Nhat Hanh walked through the ruins of bombed villages in Vietnam, he did not forge his suffering into personal greatness. He felt the pain of all as his own. That capacity arises when the walls of self grow thin. The question is not whether you own your pain. The question is whether pain can teach you to see everyone else's.
The weakest point in the Buddhist argument is the claim that releasing the self produces compassion. This is wishful thinking dressed as philosophy. If there is no self, there is no one left to feel compassion. Compassion requires a subject who recognizes another's pain as real and mattering. The Buddhist wants the fruits of selfhood, the warmth of connection, the moral weight of care. But the no-self doctrine dismantles the very ground that makes them possible. You cannot celebrate an open house whose walls you have demolished. The no-self doctrine either collapses into nihilism, in which nothing matters and no one suffers, or it secretly preserves a self that feels. You must choose. Nietzsche at least knew who was speaking.
The most vulnerable point in the Nietzschean argument is the claim that suffering must produce greatness to carry meaning. This leaves most human pain without significance. A child who suffers and never becomes great. An elderly person lost in pain with nothing to show for it. A life crushed before it can forge anything at all. What does the Nietzschean say to them? That their suffering was meaningless because the will to power failed to transmute it? The Nietzschean framework is a philosophy for those exceptional enough to survive and transcend. It has almost nothing to offer those who cannot. The Buddha's first teaching was not addressed to the exceptional. It was addressed to everyone who has ever known pain.
The Buddhist raises a real challenge. Not every soul forges greatness from pain, and the Nietzschean must face that. But the disagreement cannot be bridged. The Buddhist asks suffering to become transparent. The Nietzschean asks it to be loved, seized, transformed. One says, let go. The other says, hold it, love it, make it yours. Whether or not the self exists, something in each life either rises or sinks. The name of that movement is the only question worth asking.
The Nietzschean is right that suffering demands an honest response. The disagreement runs deep and cannot be resolved here. But perhaps both traditions are circling the same truth from different directions. Suffering seen clearly, whether as a forge or as compost, becomes more than just pain. The Nietzschean wants us to love our fate. The Buddhist wants us to see it without the veil of craving. Both ask for courage. And perhaps that is the one piece of common ground.